Hello, thank you for joining Getting We're Healing. Today we've got on Kimberley from, I'll try and say it right, Feng Shui Flow. I do know how to say it, but I was saying it wrong before, wasn't I?
Hello, thank you for having me. And I think, do you know what? This is a beautiful place to start because I say feng shui. If you're Eastern, you'll probably say feng shui. And if you're Northern, you probably call it feng shui. So it
Oh,
really
I'm
doesn't
Northern.
matter. I know. Well, I'm nearly there, Nottingham. I'm not, well, according to my husband, who's from Surrey, I am Northern, but I
Yeah.
don't think. And I think this is part of the reason why not many people know about it because they think, I don't even know how to pronounce it. So obviously it's not for me. So there we go. It's beautiful to be here. Thank you for having me.
I can't believe that not many people know about it. It's just mind-boggling to me because I obviously must have read it in like Bliss magazine when I was like 13 or something, and then it's stuck with me ever since, like put the toilet seat down and like the little nuggets that you get.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's something that everybody should be using. When did you first learn about Feng Shui?
So I was not brought up on anything remotely spiritual. So born and bred in Nottingham, my dad was a painter and decorator. My mum worked for him and, then raised me and my sister. And it was just a really sort of normal upbringing, if you like, and very sport related, didn't really watch movies, just really, not mundane, but we were, quite normal, if you like. And so nothing spiritual, nothing religious, nothing like that. And I my mind was sort of opened, as it quite often does with age. And my mum passed away when I was about 30. And she had early onset Alzheimer's, bless her.
Yeah.
And she passed away it would have been March 2010. And I got married to my husband in August 2010. And so it was in very close succession between her passing away and the wedding. And I think the only thing that got me through that was believing and knowing in a way. I thought when she passed away, I was like, well, actually, now at least she can come to the wedding because she was in a home. And I always thought, oh, this is really sad. Like, we feel super guilty. We could physically get her from Nottingham to Hampshire and bring her to the wedding, but she wouldn't know what was going on. She thought I was her sister. So,
Oh.
she would be sat there going, why is my sister getting remarried? So um, so actually, it was quite a nice feeling, trusting that she could actually be at the wedding. And I just sort of went with that, and it helped me hugely.
Love that.
And
Do you feel her like presence with you then on that day?
yeah, a little bit. I had a locket with a picture of her and then a picture of my mum and dad on their wedding day, and I tied it around my wedding bouquet. So I was sort of holding on to her as we were walking down the aisle. So it was really nice. It was really lovely. And, I feel just as we were mentioning before we hit record, that these things in life sort of carve your pathway in life. These things that happen, these twists and turns that happen in life, they sort of carve you into who you are. And I had my daughter when I was 32, so 2 years after we got married. And when she was about 2.5, she was really good at conversation. Like she could talk and things like that. And one day we were talking about babies and where they come from. And she said, we were talking about, is there a baby in your tummy? And she was like, well, no. Like, and she just knew that there wouldn't be a baby in my tummy. She said, well, I chose you. And
Oh.
I said, okay. And she said, well, I was up in the sky and I could see all of these mummies and daddies. And I saw you and daddy, and you look really kind and nice. And so I chose you and I slid down a slide and I ended in your tummy. And I swam
Wow.
life for a bit and then I was born. And I was like,
Wow. She is
and I was just like,
incredible.
and I just sort of sat there a bit. And a bit in awe and a bit like, well, you've not learnt that from Peppa Pig. Like that's not something
Yeah.
that
Yeah, not a two
you
and a half. No, no one's told you that
no.
story.
No. And so that sort of opened my mind a little bit. And then she never got to
Wow.
meet my mum. We call her Granny Janet. And we'd be out and about. We were in Bluewater once having lunch, and she went, "Oh, there's Granny Janet." And I sort of nearly choked on my jacket potato. And I turned around and I was like, "Where?" And she was like, "Oh, she's gone away now. She's gone around the corner." So she was really matter of fact about things. And I think that's when I sort of thought, okay, maybe there is something more, not more to life, but just, a little bit more going on.
Yeah.
And I didn't really do much else with it, but it's a bit of a lockdown story because I was a teacher for 10 years. So I was actually an equine lecturer.
An
I've had
equine
an
lecturer.
yeah, I've had an eclectic career. So I used to teach equine science to students between 16 and 18 and like degree students as well.
Wow.
I know.
How did you
So
get into
so
that?
amazing. I went, so I used to work in human resources. So absolutely non-spiritual pathway into a world where I'm talking about, adding crazy stuff to your house to
I
change
guess
the energy.
equine's horses, right?
Yeah.
And horses are
Yeah.
really spiritual.
Yes.
That's quite interesting.
They are amazing animals. So I worked in human resources, and it was amazing. I worked for an investment bank and worked there when the going was great with money and, it was all fun. And then I decided I didn't really like people anymore. And I decided to go and do a degree as a mature student. And this was all the time like when my mum wasn't very well and it was a bit of a distraction and all of those things. And then within about the first 6 months of doing the course as a student, I remember thinking, gosh, this is what it feels like to learn from people that are really passionate about what they're talking about. It's not just this boring maths teacher teaching maths for the 28th year in a row. Like these
Yeah.
people were so passionate about what they were talking about. And it made learning beautiful. It made learning easy. And
Yeah.
so I thought I want to be a teacher, and that's what I did. So I taught for 10 years at a college and it was amazing. And there's definitely that sort of helpful channel in my body, whether it was human resources or teaching.
Yeah.
But
It's amazing.
unfortunately, yeah, moving in and out. But unfortunately, I was made redundant in lockdown.
Right.
And so I decided to try and start a business selling like wellness products online, really. And they were really good at self-development because it was all online through lockdown, really good at self-development, really opening your eyes to your own energy. And I was introduced to The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, which is like my first sort of spirituality book.
Yeah.
And I also listened to Virgin Radio, which I still do now. And I live in Australia now, and I still listen to that in the morning. And he was talking about how he like exercised daily in lockdown. He wrote affirmations and he listened to podcasts. And I thought, well, he comes on air bright as a button every day.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I literally stumbled across the podcast of a Feng Shui practitioner talking to somebody about how they can change their home to attract a partner into their life.
Okay.
And my initial reaction was, what a load of nonsense. Like, how on earth is that going to happen? And
Yeah.
then the
They're not going
podcast
to
host,
walk through the front door.
well, exactly. Like, where are you just going to magic this person from? And the podcast host did meet somebody.
Wow.
They weren't the right person. So that's rule number one. Be specific when you are asking for things in life.
Yeah.
But they they sort of sparked something in me, but more from a cynical point of view that I wanted to disprove it, really. I wanted to prove that it didn't work. And actually, all the research I did pointed to the fact that most or a lot of some of the most successful business people in the world practice some form of feng shui in their home or in their businesses or in the property that they own.
Yeah.
Most hotels, shopping centres, airports around the world have some form of feng shui in them. A water fountain is feng shui. A water fountain brings wealth, prosperity, and abundance. I'm sure you can think of your local shopping centre, an airport, and a hotel that all has a water fountain in front of it.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say,
that's how.
sorry, I passed a car garage the other day, like a big car garage. It must have been like, I don't know, Mercedes or BMW or something like that. And it had a massive, absolutely massive orb water
Yeah.
fountain right in like a specific corner of the parking lot. And I was like, that's got to be feng shui.
It will be, but it's so subtle. It's almost like this secret that people don't tell people about. And I think that's where my like power to the people energy came out because I thought, well, why don't I know about this? Like, I'm at home in lockdown with my daughter and my dog, and my husband worked in construction, which was like the only industry where they physically were allowed to go to work.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why don't I know how to keep my home calm and happy and, keep hold of the money that we're earning? And so that's when I got the lady to analyze my home. And it was probably one of the best decisions that I've ever made.
Wow. And was it the lady of the person whose podcast you listened to, or had you like
Yes.
gone down? It was. So you got the actual
Yeah.
lady to do
I
it.
just thought, I've listened to her. That's it. That's where I'm going to. And
That's like me with you.
it's,
I was like, yeah, I can't even remember how I found you, but I think it was a similar thing. I think you were on Fongo's um
yes.
podcast. And then did I book it after that? I can't remember. But anyway, I found you and I was like, yep, that I like there was some kind of like trust built in
Yes.
the way that you speak and the way that you present things and share things. And I was like, yes, she totally knows what she's talking about. And like you say before, that the passion that you can tell that you're so passionate about it.
I I just think it's this, it's been kept a secret for so long, and it was kept a secret for thousands of years. It was kept a secret on purpose. The old Feng Shui masters 4,000 years ago used to have two assistants working for them back in the day. And one of them they told the truth to, and one of them they lied to. And so people didn't know which one was the truth and which one wasn't. And that's why there are so many different ways of doing feng shui because nobody really knew the truth from the beginning. So that's what makes it super confusing. That's why there's about 120 schools of feng shui that you can count. And within that, there's still differences that you can sort of take from that. So that's why it can be really quite overwhelming. And I think because of my teaching background,
Mm.
what I try and do, and this is what I did for the students, I took really complex information. I'm not saying I'm a genius, but take complex information and explain it in a way that hopefully then makes sense to people. And
Yeah.
so I'm almost like this translator between something that's 4,000 years old and, well, how can I do that in a modern home if I don't want a lucky cat in my lounge? Like, how
Yeah.
can I still implement feng shui, but do it in a way that quite often their partner isn't going to find out about? I feng shuied our home without even telling my husband. He had
Oh
no
my
idea.
gosh. How did you do that?
With a lot of sneaking around
You're
and
like you've suddenly got OCD. What's wrong with you?
yeah, oh, I just kept moving things around and just did it like one by one. And then I think again, because it was in lockdown, it was just like you just don't ask questions anymore. Like if it
Yeah.
was like if that makes her happy, then we'll just go with that.
Yeah.
Um, and what Feng Shui does is it's like acupuncture for the home. So we use the five elements. So earth, water, wood, metal, and fire. and we use those elements in the home to balance the energy, almost like a filtration system for the energy in the home. And all of these elements have their own energy. So if you think earth is very grounding, sand, for example, you stand on sand, we use it for grounding. It takes away a lot of that sort of stress and tension. Wood is trees and plants, so this upward growing sort of growth energy. Fire can be a beautiful energy. It burns through negativity and wakes your home up a little bit. You've got water, which cleanses the energy, like having a shower, like how you feel energized afterwards. And then metal, and metal is the most bonkers one that I'm going to ask to add to your house.
Yeah.
But metal is the ore of the earth. It's like giant crystals, but we've become so conditioned to that metal is just metal and we just build homes from it. Like, but
Yeah.
actually it's this beautiful mineral from the ground and that absorbs all the negativity in your home. And so when you place it in areas when I look at your home and I know what's going on, I can tell you what element needs to go into each area to then just balance that energy in the home and sort of put this filtration system in so that your home is just constantly burning off negative energy and just bringing this lovely cleansing energy to your home. Not every home needs my input though. Some homes just have a really heavy energy, and that heavy energy may feel like it's hard to earn money, or you're earning money but it's flying out the door, or you're bickering, or there's tension, or your home just feels exhausting. Like there's just one thing after another constantly. That's heavy energy. But some homes have a really lovely light energy. And there, I think the homes are the people that can just, they think about something and then they manifest it into their life. Like literally next day, just come knocking on the door and it's like, hi, you asked for me and now I'm here.
Here's your
But not all homes, yeah, hi, you know, but not all homes are like that. Some homes just need tweaking. And so you can do little things in your home to shift the energy, but then other homes just need a bit more of a shift. I guess it's like humans when you're training for a marathon, or you want to get fitter and stronger. Some people can go out and just do it and within 5 days look completely shredded.
yeah,
And other people, they need a PT, they need a nutritionist. This is me, by the way,
yeah,
and they need all the motivation that they can get. And it's like your home. Your home has this personality, and some are lighter and have a better sense of humor, and some homes are just a bit stubborn and a bit stuck in the way. And so that's when Feng Shui comes in, because if everything in your life is perfect, you don't really need Feng Shui. But
yeah.
if it's not quite right, then that's when we can come and have a look at the energy in your home.
And do you think like people can, so say if you've got a house that has got really good energy, do you think people can almost ruin that energy by like having too much stuff? Or I feel like cleaning the house is an important thing with Feng Shui. I don't know if that's just me, but I cleaned my office before I came on because I was like, it needs to be clean.
Yeah, I think Feng Shui isn't just about cleaning, but it's definitely part of it because energy wants to move. Static energy, if you think of a person that sat still all day, a toddler that sat still all day, they'll go mad because they need to burn off that energy and get it moving. Everything that has energy wants to move. And it's the same in the home. The energy wants to be able to move around and it does it and it will burn off the tension. Anything that's in the way is going to make it harder for that energy to move around the space. And then when the energy gets stuck, so say you've got a chair of doom in the corner of your bedroom or a load of clutter in the corner of your office,
Yeah,
that energy will get stuck and it's just going to sit there and absorb everything away, the good stuff and the bad stuff. It's literally just going to keep sucking it all up and just stay there. And then that's when you get that feeling of stagnancy. And also when you just get that feeling that good things come, but then they go again, because there's anything that's stagnant in the home is stopping the good stuff being able to move around. So clutter is a huge thing, and cleaning as well is just and it's not being overly fanatical I'm not saying that you can't have stuff around. You don't have to have all white crisp furniture. I hate dusting, and I probably don't dust enough as I should. I probably only do it when I can see it, which probably means it's way too late.
Yeah.
But, live in your home, still live in your home, but just try and let things have a place so that the energy can freely move around your home.
Yeah. So when you so it was lockdown, you were doing your course, you were sneaking around like moving things, and so were you doing this as you were doing your course? Like you were
No, so I put all of the remedies in my home. So the way that Feng Shui works, I think it's like the missing piece of the manifestation puzzle because I was doing all the manifesting I could. The crystals, the writing things on post-it notes. I was writing amounts of money that I wanted to earn. I buried them in the garden. They're still in the garden, probably in Surrey before we moved. I burnt them. I did everything and nothing was working. And it felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall. And that's when I thought with Feng Shui, I was like, right, this is one last shot because I can see other people doing it. It's working for them. Why is it not working for me? And so when you add these remedies into your home, when you add the five elements into your home, you do it with intention. And we divide the home into nine different areas using the compass. And each of these compass areas represents an area of your life. And so, therefore, that's why decluttering, for example, the southeast of your home is really important because that looks after your wealth and prosperity. So, if you're feeling that your wealth isn't going as well as it should and it's a cluttered area, it's because the energy can't get around. So, when you're adding these elements to your home, you're doing it with intention. And whereas before, where I was really specific about this business, I wanted to earn this much and I want this many clients and I was really specific. I decided when I added the stuff to my house to really open up my intentions. And I asked just for any business that meant that I could be financially independent and not just financially independent, that it was enough for me to run the ship if I want, if I needed to. I wanted to work with lovely people all around the world. I didn't want to have to get into arguments with people about paying. I wanted people to pay on time. I didn't want that to be an issue in my business. And I wanted to help people as well, but I didn't know what. And so I put all of the remedies in. And then a month later, I had an email from the lady who analysed my home to say that she was running a certification course and it's perhaps her last ever certification course. And would I be interested in doing it? And that was probably one of the most important emails that I've had in terms of shaping my life, because that was then what I was asking for. I was asking for a business that allowed me to do that. And not at one point before that email came had I ever thought of being a Feng Shui consultant at all. And then that day changed everything.
Did you know straight away when you got the email?
Yeah. I knew in my gut, but it wasn't an easy decision because it was 10,000 American dollars. And I absolutely did not have 10,000 American dollars because I was made redundant and I was trying to get a business off the ground. I did not have that money. And I then had to have a conversation with my husband about whether we could take it out of our savings, bearing in mind he still didn't know that I'd feng shuied the home.
I love
How the
that.
conversation went. I was like, so I'm thinking of doing a course, and this is what it is. And by the way, I've feng shuied a home, and I really want to do it. And he was sort of laughing at the same time because he was like, well, I'm not going to say no because I want to be supportive of you. I don't really understand what it is. And I was like, I'm going to make a business out of it. I know. And he was like, but in his world, no one exists doing feng shui.
Yeah.
There's nothing in his world. He works in construction. This is not part of spirituality, is not part of his day-to-day job. And I just said, look, I'll pay you back. And he laughed. He was like, how? I don't know. I do not know, but I promise I will somehow make it work. And so I signed up to the course. I
A
it was a
true
year
inner,
long course. Sorry.
it's a true inner knowing
Yeah.
to be
In
so,
my gut, I knew.
yeah. And you took
I
aligned
knew.
action with your gut, which is just
Mm.
incredible.
And I thought even if it was a no from the family savings, I thought even at the age of however old I was, 41, 42, I'm going to ask my dad. Like that's how sort of determined I was to do it. And my dad would have even, I think he would have fallen through a hole in the ground because again, this was not something that was ever part of my pathway. But I've always chosen different ways of doing things and doing things differently. So it's not a huge surprise, but I I knew that this was it and I knew that I would somehow make the money. And I decided when I started doing the Feng Shui course, I needed an income stream. And I wasn't at a point of being able to Feng Shui people's homes because I knew nothing about it. So again, I just had this gut feeling that trying to set up my business online, I'd learn how to use social media to sell products. And I thought, right, I can help other people do that. So again, I was driving through my local high street and there's this shop, and I just had this gut feeling to go in and ask her if she wanted some help with her Instagram. And I literally had my gym gear on,
Oh,
no makeup, all flustered, and I just went in and I was like, "Hi, I just wondered if you would like help with your Instagram because I'm starting a business and I this is what I'm going to do. I don't have any clients yet, but this is me." And she went, "I've been wanting somebody to come and help me do this for ages." And I was like, "Okay." And she said, "How much are you going to charge?" And I thought, in my head, I was thinking, I've got no idea. I've not got that far yet because only 2 minutes ago was I driving down the high street and I just went, £300. And she went, okay, yeah, fine. Which was actually way more than what people would normally charge. And I thought, this is it. And then I put an advert on the local Facebook page, and I said, this is what I'm doing. And I was full. I had about 10 clients in the first week. And I did that for 18 months, paying throughout my whole course
oh,
until I then moved to Australia. And that's how I paid my husband back out of a business, again, that I had no idea that it was even possible for me to do. Everything has just worked out. And that's what Feng Shui has brought to me. If somebody says, how has it changed your life? One of the things it can help with is helpful people.
mm,
And helpful people is like a title that Feng Shui gives. And it doesn't sound very helpful, when you sort of say that, but actually the first person that I asked to help with their Instagram, the first person that I did the course with, the people that helped us move to the other side of the world, the first person that's done my website is amazing. The first person that helped me with my online stuff is incredible. So I
wow.
don't have to churn through people because they're not quite right.
Mm.
And that for me is what's made my life so much easier and so much more smooth running.
And it's almost like you feng shuied your house from this lady's analysis, and then things just started dropping in for you.
Yeah.
Like the email
Yeah.
dropped in with the course, then the thought dropped in of you going into that shop, and then she said yes to you charging her £300
Yeah.
for it's just
Yeah.
insane. It's
It
amazing.
is. It's completely bonkers. And then I started my business in November 2023. I get all the years mixed up. No, no. When would it have been? 22, sorry, 22, November 22. And then in January 23, so I had my business for 3 months. That's when I was asked to go on this morning.
That's just insane. Like, how did they
Yeah.
know about you?
So it was a friend of a friend that
Helpful
found
people.
out about me on Instagram because you know how algorithms play, like if your friend likes your stuff, then it will then show it to them.
Yeah.
And they didn't follow me or anything like that. And it was the Chinese New Year show, and it was very male focused, very male heavy. They had got Guan on, they had the Chinese dragons, they had the world's biggest rabbit because they had, it was the year of the rabbit. So you knew what this morning's like. It was amazingly bonkers.
Yeah.
And they thought, actually, we need a more female presence on here. And so apparently they had the team meeting and they said, how on earth can we do this? Because we've already got a chef, we've already got this, that, and the other. And then somebody said, oh, I'm sure there's this Feng Shui person out there. Maybe we can get her on.
Yeah.
And just it just happened.
And were you
And
living in Australia at the time?
no, so I was still in the UK. So we moved here in June 23. So
Right.
it was just before I moved. So again, not ideal timing because I was on three times at the beginning of 2023, and then we moved in June over here. But then here's another helpful people moment. The lady that was on the production team on This Morning in the UK moved over here to Australia and now works on the morning show. And then they got in contact with me over here because of me coming over here.
Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
It just shows keep that corner of your house spick and span. That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is it's an incredible story. And it's funny because I'm writing a presentation now. I'm speaking at an event called Manifest in June in the UK.
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
coming back. And actually, when you write your story down, it's amazing how just taking a step back and going, like, wow, this is what's happened in such a short space of time. And I think, having just utter bu- like guttural belief
Yeah.
that it was going to work and this was my pathway. And not like nothing's going to stop me sort of attitude, but people don't question you if you say things with conviction. And as left of center was the idea of me now being a Feng Shui consultant, I was so certain about it, but said it with a bit of a sense of humor that people were a bit like, oh, okay, I'll just see, I'll just sit and watch and
Yeah.
wait. Um, and if you just, yeah, if you say it with that conviction, people listen.
It's just incredible. So you've got a book coming out now.
Yes, again, another incredible moment. So the first time when I was on This Morning, a lady was watching at home because she was on maternity leave and she was a literary agent. And she had two kids, like really young, like two kids under two at home, something like that. And she remembers seeing me on This Morning, but it was all a bit of a blur. And then for whatever reason, she just forgot about it. And then in the April, she was like, "Oh my goodness, I thought I followed this person." So she had to hunt me down and to find me. And she contacted me and she said, "Well, I had a meeting at the beginning of the year to say what book I would like to work on." And she said, "I wanted to do a Feng Shui book. This is what I want to do. So can I represent you and we'll go and find a publisher?"
Yeah.
And yeah, of course. And she was so lovely, so lovely. She is lovely. And I mean, the story isn't as easy, going through. I think we were turned down by at least 25 publishers
Wow.
for various reasons. And we just kept going because we just knew that it was, we were on the right pathway. And Watkins Publishers came out and said, "Yep, absolutely, we're super interested." So my book, The Calm and Happy Home, is out in November, which is just mad to say. And I've really tried to share everything about Feng Shui, but in a way that isn't like this huge to-do list.
Yeah.
I want it to be almost like this secret, this opening these doors that you've never walked through before. And actually, you can change certain areas of your life just by making some really small shifts and not being dictatorial about it. You must do this and you must do that because there's a lot of feng shui books that are like that. If
Yeah.
your dining room is a certain shape, you're doomed for life and
Yeah.
all of these things.
I am like that with
So
my husband though. I'm like, put the toilet seat down.
yeah,
For
I know.
goodness sake.
But I'm bad as well, and it's funny because I did a reel a few weeks ago about clearing the entrance to your hallway, and then I
I saw
came in
that
and I
one.
was
Now I'm like, I always put my keys by the front door. It's the negative
no.
energy from outside.
But then I left my trainers at the front door because I'd been for a run and I left them at the front door. And my husband came around, he went, "You've just done a reel on this." I thought we're not supposed to leave our shoes by the front door. I was like, I know, can't be perfect all the time.
Good to know he's watching, to be fair.
I know.
So is he converted then now? He's a converted Feng
I'd
Shui.
say he's like 50%. I think his view is that it's not harming anybody.
Yeah,
And even if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, that by you doing something in your home makes you feel better, and therefore is going to make you happier, and therefore you're going to have better relationships, you're going to have a better day at work, and it is that snowball effect,
yeah,
then he's all for it. Whether he believes, I asked him to go and get some more. We use terracotta as a red earth remedy sometimes, and I asked him to go out and get some more terracotta sources from like our version of B&Q the other day. And he was like, "Do we really need them?" And I was like, "Yes." He was like, "Okay." And he came back and he went, "There you go." So he's not truly converted, but he gets it. And he gets that it does change people's lives. The reason for that is probably undecided,
yeah,
but it makes people feel better. And some of the things he can't explain. So I
yeah,
put that down to way.
exactly. And also there's another angle of it as well now because there's lots of studies that have been proven recently with how having a clear and tidy, organized space helps people with ADHD and that lowers anxiety. So like that's all energy as well. Um,
It's huge. And I talk about neurodesign in my book as well.
oh wow.
Um, yeah, which is an amazing thing to include and how you can do things in your home like that, like decluttering for anyone with sensory sensitivities to make their world just that little bit calmer and having their space in the home as well, whatever they feel comfortable in. Maybe they love the color bright red and you hate the color red, but just everybody having a space in their home that's theirs. And there's lots of little things that you can do in the home that just makes people feel calmer. And you're right, having a clearer space because it means that the energy can circulate around them. There's less things that are going to sort of trigger the brain. Like the brain needs to settle down, and all things like lighting, making sure at nighttime you can have lighting that you can dim. Things like weighted blankets, which it's not all technically feng shui, but it's all things that you can bring in, and especially with children's bedrooms just even great storage solutions in children's bedrooms so that you can put stuff away at nighttime. Because the biggest thing with kids' bedrooms, with an adult's bedroom, it's like rest, romance, and relaxation.
Yeah.
That's what the bedroom is for. But in a children's bedroom, they will play in there. They'll have their friends over in there. They'll do the
Yeah.
homework in there. They use their gadgets and gaming in there. And then at night time, we expect them to be able to sleep in there as well. And
Mm.
so there's all of this energy in there. And they love the brightly coloured duvets and the posters and the stuff everywhere. And all of that has energy. So it's almost like trying to have a room design where they can play in the day, but at night time, you can then just calm everything down. So even if they love a monster truck duvet cover, for example, it's not the most calming. So what you could do is have like a sleepy blanket and you call it a sleepy blanket and you pull it up over the duvet. And that again is just going to calm down the energy a little bit, putting their toys away in baskets, especially with things with lids on, is just all going to keep that energy a little bit more settled in their bedroom, especially for kids that are neurodiverse.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how, I know we're going to wrap up soon, but I just find it so interesting how your house, which is like obviously your home and where you live, but it impacts the energy in your house impacts you when you're not at home.
Yeah.
I find that it's like it's almost hurting my head, but it's just incredible. Like when you were out and you were like, right, I'm going to go into the shop and speak to this woman,
Mm.
and you've got that, like, it's like you're carrying that energy with you all the time.
Yeah. It almost gives you, yeah, like this cloak of energy that, and I think what it does is when you're at home, it's almost like you're coming back and plugging in and you're being recharged with all of that energy. And also, your space isn't noisy anymore. You know, like when you go on holiday and you walk into your bedroom and your shoulders just instantly react, relax. And quite often we go on holiday and we have all these amazing creative ideas. And we're like, when I get home, I'm going to do this or start an exercise regime or whatever it is. Because you can think without all of this noise. And so, what Feng Shui does, it does that in your home. It takes away all of the noise that's leading to tension, procrastination, that feeling of being stuck, the feeling of anxiety. My anxiety was definitely helped when I added the remedies because things just calmed down a little bit. And because you learn to trust your gut, you can hear your gut so much louder when you haven't got that noise that then when you're out and about, you can still tune in to your gut instinct and follow through with those actions, go and do your thing, and then come back and recharge again. And I think that's how it then helps you in your day-to-day life.
Wow, it's really inspired me now. I'm like, right, I need to do a big clear out. This is like a small portion.
Clearing out just feels amazing. It feels amazing. And one person said to me, and I say this in my book as well because it's really quite profound. Really, even if we're buying something, we're only borrowing it. We're just borrowing it for a longer period of time. So even if you buy a t-shirt, you buy your house, but actually you're still passing it on. We're still renting stuff, really. And I think when you just see stuff of just borrowing it for a certain amount of time, it's then easier for you to then pass it on for somebody else to borrow as well. And you don't need that stuff around you to keep those memories. We still have our brain. Like I don't need a ticket, to New York from 1999 to remind me of the fact that I went. I've got the photos, I've got everything. I don't necessarily need to keep every little ticket stub of
Yeah.
everything that I've done
Yeah.
and just allow the energy to flow around your home.
Oh my gosh. So for if somebody wants to like just get started, what's like a small thing that they can just do today?
I think the biggest thing is just to realize that your home has energy and the energy wants to move around. So, decluttering is going to be really important. What you can do is download a free guide from my website, which is the fengshuiflow.com, and it's called the nine areas of your home. And this then tells you which compass area looks after which part of your life. So, where's your love and romance? Where's your career? Where's your wealth? Where's your health, for example? Because then I feel it gives you that motivation. I've realized that our downstairs toilet and our dumping spare room was in charge of our wealth, prosperity, and abundance. So, you've
Wow.
never seen me clean the bathroom quicker and put away all of the stuff that was in that bedroom because I thought, well, it means something. It's not
Yeah.
just a room I close the door on. Even if the door's closed, it's still impacting my life. So I think they're the biggest things. Realize that there's energy, download the nine areas, and then declutter with purpose because that's going to help your motivation.
Amazing. Thank you
But
so
don't feel
much.
overwhelmed by it. I just want to say, like, don't feel overwhelmed by the decluttering process because you don't have to do your whole house in one go. Literally 10 minutes a day is going to make a huge difference. And don't feel that you need to turn over your whole house in a day.
I love it. I feel like people should be doing videos of it and then tagging you in saying like before,
Yes, do.
this is what I've decluttered.
A before and after picture is so motivating. Even if you just do it for yourself, I find it so
Yeah.
motivating because you look back and you think, oh my goodness, was it really that
Yeah.
bad?
Did I live like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know it's late there, so thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, you're so welcome, Linda. Thank you for having me and just thank you for embracing the magic of Feng Shui.
Oh yeah, I'm obsessed now. I'm just like not doing it quite right, but like you say, I'm not putting too much pressure
Matter.
on myself.
No, every little bit helps.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Take care.